it's actually not an explicitly educational app, but I do refer to it as being cerebral and problem solving and critical thinking oriented. So one of my questions is to think about how I can fit this game into my existing portfolio of apps. It's kind of a classic adventure game. You're basically just thrown into a situation and you have to figure out at first why you're even there. And later on, you have to figure out how to solve each dilemma that comes up. So our first activity is to tap the door and go inside the house. And at this point, we don't know what we're doing, so we just have to explore around. But you finally figure out that you can turn on the TV remote and turn on the TV. You can surf through some channels. So various things to watch. These are two of my favorite bands. And eventually you get to a certain channel and then something strange happens. So you start falling asleep. And then you wake. So after you wake up, the world is just a little bit different.
Wait, order video.
And you find that there's something unusual on the television screen.
Okay.
And eventually you realize you can tap this heron on screen, and it comes out of the screen into your living room, as it should.
As it should.
So he has something hanging around his neck, and you can tap on that and explore what that is. So we have a little pocket watch. You can tap it to open it. We can tap the picture, and we get a little message telling us somebody needs help, and we need to go to channel 804. So we can't do that because he's on top of the remote control. So we have to lure him off. So we go to channel 804, and we find the channel is not activated, so we have to activate it using the telephone. So we dial our number. So I'm going through it really fast, but in an actual game, you're actually spending many minutes exploring and trying various combinations. So you have to go through this automated voicemail or automated system to get your channel activated. You have to listen to smooth and soothing music. So eventually we can get moving here. So I'll just go through it real quickly, but you just have to kind of navigate. Okay, so now we have our channel activated, and what we see on the screen is this sort of mysterious box with these LED displays on it. So our clue here is that we finally have to figure out that where it says destination 11:15, so that's a time of day. So we have to bring our watch back and actually set the watch to that time. And we push the top button, and we get our coordinates. And we have to, through trial and error, realize that we typed them in using the remote control, the arrows, and we push OK. And that's basically chapter 1 of the game. So the game sort of progresses that way. And the question now is, who sent this message? Why are they, contacting us? And so on. So this game is fairly large. It's 250 megabytes. It's got 60 different screens. There's 400 sound effects. So it's a very large app. It took a long time to make, and it's really more of a personal project. It's totally like the most unmarketable app ever made, probably. But it's just something I wanted to do, so I did it. So there.
I'm just curious, is there other types of interactions within it besides touch, using accelerometer, or any other, what else do you do with the...
The only thing I did, it started with the Flash game, so it started with a mouse point and click. I did adapt different parts of the game for swiping. So instead of tapping, something to rotate like a lock, a combination lock, you can actually turn it with your finger. But no, I didn't include any kind of accelerometer, or I don't use the camera or any other features like that.
You say unmarketable, but this reminds me a lot of, was it Mist? Is that what it's called? Like, I mean, that was hugely successful, I think, back
In the 90s.
that vein of, I mean, I'm curious now, like, I want to know what happens next. I mean, and I was talking to someone else here about, a lot of the apps that are out there are very just, Angry Birds on the game side or just on the learning side are just sort of very drill and kill, instant gratification. I'm an educator, so from the learning side, how can apps be used to go deeper and get at some of those more critical skills instead of just the drill and kill style or just quick entertainment? And so I'm happy to see you playing in that space because I think that I'd like to see a lot more of that.
Yeah, I think this sort of game style could be used in education somehow.
Yeah, so with these types of games, it's often a fine line, right, between making it too easy so that you're just clicking through, and then on the other end, making it so difficult that you get a block, and like that sweet spot of finding it compelling enough to be playable. What did you do to sort of, try to get that middle ground?
That's a great question. I just did my best, and I was conscious of that problem from the beginning because I played these games, and the worst part is just being stuck indefinitely, like you're going to be stuck forever with no end. So all I can say is I was just conscious of that problem before. Like there was one game I played where the solution was to put the lobster in the fuse box. And it took me like a half hour to figure that out, and it wasn't very satisfying after I figured it out. So I guess what I try to do is make all the puzzles logical. So that's probably the best answer.
So one of the changes since the 90s is that we have a lot more social gameplay and discussion. So is there a Twitter feed that people could use to say, hey, I'm stuck here, or are you looking at ways to then make it a
I'll just show real quick. It does have a hint system, so if, in this particular place, I just picked up a battery, so it's telling me I need to use a battery somewhere. And it's progressive, so the first hint is very vague, the second one's a little bit more helpful, and the third one or fourth one will just tell you, put it there.
How long is there in a fuse box?
Right, so you don't have to be stuck you can be stuck for as long as you want to. And the hints are sort of, there's a time penalty, like you have to wait for the next hint, so you can't just zoom through them. So it kind of forces you to go back in the game with that hint and find the solution yourself. How closely does this type of app fit into the education category?
Education 10, non-educational 1.
What do you guys think? Is it dust or is it magic? Mr. Pinson, I believe you have some pretty good magic there. Congratulations.